Okay, that's right. And Eagles side of things. Okay, here we go. In three, two, one. Well, the Eagles wanted to be more explosive on offense, and here you go, Eagles fans. But is it good enough? Did they get the right wide receiver, or should have they been looking at a different position? That and more today. It is the NFC East as we go through the 2021 NFL Draft recap here on the Audible. It's Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom, and we start with the Cowboys, even though I teased the Eagles. Got to make you wait, Bloom, right?
Yeah.
But we go in alphabetical order, and we go with Micah Parsons in the first round. Obviously, this team wanted some linebacker help, and they get that with the freak with Micah Parsons. Now, you talk about heat-seeking missile as a tackler. You talk about, just being able to rush the passer if you want him to. And then the coverage ability. Now, on film, did he look lost at times in coverage? Sure. Did he bite on play fakes and pump fakes a little bit too much? Sure. But that athleticism, the ability to turn, the makeup speed is there, the burst is there, so that with proper coaching, and he'll get better coaching with the Cowboys, that he'll turn into that coverage linebacker that you need in today's NFL. So Micah Parsons there, number 12 overall, and top 10 talent, whatever. Kelvin Joseph, cornerback, Kentucky, is their second round pick. Oza Adigzua, defensive tackle, UCLA, is their third rounder, along with Chauncey Golston, defensive end out of Iowa, Nashawn Wright, cornerback, Oregon State. The three third rounders, couple of fourth rounders, including another linebacker, Jabril Cox from LSU. The conversation around Cox is he's fantastic in coverage, like absolutely fantastic in coverage. North Dakota State, transferred to LSU, played there one season, showed that he could hang with the tougher competition of the SEC, and that's a hell of a jump. So you talk about coverage, yes, with Cox. Tackling, maybe you got to clean that up. So it's almost a little bit opposite of Parsons there. Josh Ball, another fourth rounder, offensive tackle from Marshall. Simi Fehko, wide receiver, Stanford in the fifth round. Quentin Bohanna, defensive tackle, Kentucky. Israel Mukamu, South Carolina cornerback, and then finish things off with Matt Farniok, guard from Nebraska. Cowboys needed defensive help, and oh my God, did they get it?
Yeah, there's a very clear plan here. You might like the plan, you might not like the plan, but there's a very clear plan here. And also, there's maybe a blind spot. So, see, this is one of the more fun drafts to talk about, or at least one of the drafts that we can make conclusions about in the sense that we know what they were going for here. Okay? Length and general explosiveness, strength. They just wanted to amp up their defense. This is a Dan Quinn draft. This is Dan Quinn. What kind of players do you want? We're going to go get those players. Length really being the most prominent of those traits that they added on defense, but also character concerns. Ooh, there's a lot of guys in this class. It's almost like every round they took the guy that other teams were like, well, this year, I don't know, we don't want to be too risky and stick our neck out. And they're like, we will, over and over and over again. So we'll see. This could be a draft where they crap out because none of these guys really pan out. See, so you don't think Cowboys culture is one that straightens out best outcomes for character concerned players. Parsons being one of them, and what happened here? There was a little buzz. I can't remember who put it out there that, hey, the Cowboys might not have their choice of the top two cornerbacks at number 10, but it ended up even being more severe than that. They didn't have one of the top two cornerbacks, as the Panthers kind of surprised folks, and the Broncos surprised folks, Horn and Surtain.
And the Cowboys wanted Surtain.
Yeah, that was not a very well-kept secret, reuniting with Diggs. So, hey, make lemonade. 10 down to 12. Get a third-round pick, and I think they were zeroed in on Parsons at that point. It's interesting to ponder that perhaps they could have taken the deal. I don't know if the Giants were talking to them. The deal that the Bears gave the Giants. Maybe they wouldn't get Parsons at 20, but just something to think about. The Parsons pick also shows us Leighton Vander Esch not getting his fifth-year option picked up, neck issues. We'll talk about Cox and how that might affect looking at Jalen Smith and his long-term contract. But like you said, Cease, coverage, maybe there's some lapses. But as far as physically, that middle of the defense, in play influencer, that's Parsons. Kelvin Joseph, they didn't get the corner in the first round. So they get Kelvin Joseph, and this is going to be a theme, right? Athletically, everything you want in a corner. Very limited starting tape to look at and a work in progress, So that's why you have these corners get in the top of the first round, where someone who has a first round athleticism, first round frame like Joseph, what are you going to get out of him? We'll see. Odigizua, you remember his brother Owa. Now we have Osa. He can blow up some plays. The third round pick they get from the Eagles for moving down, Golston, again, more linear, but strength, length, awareness, and energy on the outside. Certainly one of the strangest picks, right? A cornerback. But again, so you want to decode this draft. They reached for a cornerback that was right on the fringe of draft ability by a lot of people on the draft board. They take right at the number 99 pick. Well, he's a 6'4" corner, this is the guy they reach for. Obviously Dan Quinn put a great premium on the idea of we want length in the secondary that has very thin as far as talent at cornerback. Jabril Cox, great coverage linebacker, like you said, Cecil. But again, they can get out Jalen Smith's contract without too much pain after next year. Is that Cox's job? Josh Ball, another one of these developmental offensive tackles, high ceiling, character concerns, or just getting the hit football character out of him. Fourth round, some people thought offensive tackle. Remember, the Cowboys' offensive line just fell apart. They could have taken Rashawn Slater. Offensive line fell apart last year. You thought maybe with Lyle Collins, Tyron Smith, injuries, surgeries, things like that. They do get Josh Ball, more of a developmental project. Fehoko, you mentioned, this is a guy, he's got size, he's got the athleticism, flashes at the game, you want the catch point. So it's a high ceiling guy. Maybe if Michael Gallup doesn't return in free agency next year, if Fehoko develops, that's his spot. So we're certainly going to be watching him. Bohanna, they get a nose tackle. Mukamu, another guy with length. It's nice whenever we can take a look and say, okay, this is another 6'4" cornerback. Another 6'4" cornerback. Dan Quinn had experience coming out of that Seattle system. Length at cornerback, obviously a stress here. And then Farniok, they got some depth. Safety, still a problem. So for all that, maybe some of those long corners can become safeties. Maybe that's part of the plan. Yeah. I don't know. But it was really Dan Quinn. You get the keys to the car and drive wherever you want. You can do the shopping this time.
You could do the shopping when you talk undrafted free agents with the Cowboys and Jaquan Hardy from Tiffin. Now, you turn on the tape, which is probably YouTube because it's Tiffin, but right. You see an explosive player with a nose for the end zone, little wasted motion as a runner. So, hey, we all play in Bloom. I usually like to poke fun at you for your super deep. I play in a dynasty league with 65-man rosters. Like, oh, sure. Okay. If you're playing in super deep dynasty, put a pin in Jaquan Hardy, see what you get.
Remember the Tiffin wide receiver we've talked about on the show many, many times in the past?
Give me. Tell me
Nate Washington.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, former Steeler Titan. A little attention to Brendan Knox. Good feet. Maybe who's the guy right now? Rico Dowdell, right, is the number 3 back. So camp battles. There could be an actual battle there. The Marshall back coming in as an undrafted free agent.
I want to see your face when I ask you this question, Sigmund. I want to see your face all the time.
Always.
Were the Giants a gadget receiver away from being a contender?
Hey, Jason Garrett, most creative offensive coordinator in the league.
Yeah, here we go. Jason Garrett, ladies and gentlemen, come on down because it's Kadarius Toney, wide receiver out of Florida. Now, he's a playmaker, but he's a gadget. Okay, you needed a gadget guy? All right, we'll talk about it, Bloom. Plenty to say there about Tony and how he'll actually be implemented with Jason Garrett, Azeez Ojulari, edge from Georgia in the second round. Third round, Aaron Robinson, big cornerback, UCF, making some plays out there. Ellerson G. Smith, edge from Northern Iowa in round 4. Gary Brightwell, running back, Arizona in round 6. Another 6-rounder in Rodarius Williams, cornerback from Oklahoma State to round things out. But the Giants... Okay, Kadarius Toney was the guy you picked. All right.
Yeah. Well, look, let's not let that overshadow what really should be the headline here, is that Dave Gettleman finally traded down. He said before the draft, what do you mean I don't trade down? I'm open to, I would trade down. I just need a good trade down. Well, he got one. Got one from the Bears. And maybe, he wouldn't have if Devontae Smith would have been there. I have no idea. Obviously, they were set on getting a wide receiver. They're taking Kadarius Toney. But look, they also made a trade later on where they got a third-round pick. So this is a team now with a first, third, and fourth next year. I mean, that's another team's going to have a second draft, basically. Now, the Bears pick may not be a pick in the top half of the first round. Also, Joe Judge is old school, and he likes players taking them if he looked them in the eye. I know his soul. And other than Senior Bowl guys, and then they take like 5 Senior Bowl guys.
Right.
Other than Senior Bowl guys, you really didn't get a chance to do that this year. So push some of that draft capital forward. Dan Schneider, I'm going to be on their Giant show next week, pointed this out. I think it's a great point. Whether you agree with it or not, the idea of saying, hey, this draft, we are able to have the certainty, the depth of prospects to evaluate as we're used to. So let's pay some of that capital forward because we feel like we're going to be better equipped to make good decisions next year. The decisions this year. I mean, look, no one's going to argue that Toney, if you just start the play when you already have the ball in your hands, Toney's the guy, right? I mean, he's the guy. But
yeah,
Jason Garrett. Now, look, this does align with something I've been saying a lot, a theme. You got to have somebody who you can force the defense to arm the jet sweep, although you kind of already had that with Darius Slayton. And that's the thing. I'm just not feeling good feelings here because I don't think of the Giants organization right now as one that's developing offensive talent, that's deploying offensive talent in the best way to maximize their skill set. I'm just, we'll look at the Evan Ingram saga. So I just don't feel it. Jason Garrett, I still think, and plus you also have the potential critical point of failure for Daniel Jones. So, hey, maybe this could be a situation, Cecil, like what you're covering in Denver, where they have all of these pieces. Maybe they just don't have the quarterback yet, but it'll all make sense in the future when they get that quarterback. At least they do have 2 first-round picks next year. This is a make-or-break year for Daniel Jones. Azeez Ojulari, this is another player like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah falling to the mid-second round that actually a lot of people had in the mid-first. If they had taken Ojulari at number 20, everyone said, yeah, good pick. Yeah. Because this is an undersized edge, productive edge, playmaking edge, but in that defense with the Giants where he kind of fits as a tweener. In that New England style defense, a tweener as an edge because they already have a lot of the other pieces in place on the interior defensive line. So Ojulari is a good pick. Some concern about the knee, I'm not sure. So they get a player in the second round after trading down and adding another future pick. And then they go up and get Robinson. And this is a pick that has been widely praised, and I get it. And it's because now they throw a lot of resources at slot corner, not a lot of big resources, but resources nonetheless. But Aaron Robinson gives them a slot who can play man. And because of how much they like to blitz, because of how much they like to gamble, having that slot on an island who can stick to his man can really add some dimensions to this defense. They get in Smith, a great player here that could potentially be an edge, great traits. Let's see, Cecil, this is one of those things where, where do you fall in this kind of debate where you see all the traits, but you just got to get the toughness. You just got to get the competitiveness. Some teams think that they can maybe cultivate that. I think that's what you're looking for with Smith. Okay, Brightwell, a Benny Snell type. At least they didn't take him in the 4th round.
Right.
And then we get to the end of their class with Williams, a cover 2 type corner. Again, this team wants to be a pressure defense. So I get why they took all 3 players. I don't know if they can get the most out of Toney. I think Ojulari and Robinson are ready-made. But the real headline is, what are they going to do with these picks? Next year, maybe next year they'll be looking for a quarterback.
The real headline is UDFAs.
Right.
I don't know. Georgia Southern's always the team that I'll be monitoring. I don't know. Raven Johnson. It didn't look like they got much for UDFAs.
No,
right?
They didn't. Well, look, it ties into another thing. What do they do to address the offensive line? Nothing.
Nada.
Well, unless you count UDFAs like Jake Burton. I think what's the other guy? Brett Heggie. These are some guys, they have some versatility. If they make the team, okay. at the end of the line, but they're from big schools, Baylor, Florida. Yeah, not exactly an exciting UDFA class.
I'll tell you what's exciting, taking your shot at $1,001 with Underdog's Best Ball Mania II Contest. Our friends at Underdog Fantasy are blowing the doors off the best ball world this year. You must take a look at their Best Ball Mania II Contest. That's live now. The grand prize is a cool $1,001 with a $3.5 million total prize pool. It's the best ball format, so you don't have to worry about players stuck on your bench or posting huge days. Set it and forget it. Sorry, I've been watching Bill Burr's podcast. And enjoy the season. It's the best ball way to play. That's Underdog Fantasy Best Ball Mania 2 Contest. Seriously, Bloom, watch Bill Burr, his podcast, and if you can take his brand of humor, and then like his live reads, I just watch for the live reads.
Yeah. Hey,
and
that's
it's so creative.
Mm-hmm.
Or what is it? Tim Dillon again. Tim Dillon, like his live reads to like insult his sponsors.
Hey,
it's like super funny.
Anything to make the audience actually pay attention.
But you remember it, and now I've got to go get my Manscaped homegrown on. Like, yeah. Like everything. It's awesome. All right, let's talk about Philadelphia. And there was a buzz or rumor, Bloom, that the Eagles were looking at wide receiver in round 1. I'll tell you why off air. Devontae Smith is the wide receiver that they get Alabama. And we know speed, and more speed. The easy comparison is Deshaun Jackson. The Eagles got Deshaun Jackson 2.0. Shocker. Okay. You worry about his size. 166, I believe, is what he weighed in at. People wondering there. But do you get your hands on him? Like, that's the thing. Like, all these speed guys are easy to jam if you can get their hands on them, and you can't really. So with Devontae Smith, obviously they're with Jalen Hurts as their quarterback. And that was a conversation before the draft, Bloom. You had our man Jason Wood on the show. And of course, people considering, will they really go with Hurts? Like they said they would. Okay. And then you have like all the Howie Roseman, or you have all the everything going on with that team. Howie's addicted to trading, so this move makes sense. Landon Dickerson, center of Alabama, in the 2nd round, could have been a 1st-round pick. Milton Williams, defensive tackle, La Tech, in the 3rd round. 4th round, Zech McPherson, cornerback for the Red Raiders at Texas Tech. Kenneth Gainwell, running back, Memphis, 5th round. Guy can catch the ball, certainly. Electric toes, Bloom, I think is the way I describe Gainwell. The problem with him is that he's so impatient as a runner. Like his tempo, like he just wants to go, 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 go. He's just like plugged into the socket. He just go, go, go. Sometimes as a runner, it takes more nuance with your tempo. So we'll see if Gainwell can learn that at the pro level. He certainly wants to rip off plays, runner and receiver. Marlon Tupuloto, defensive tackle, USC. Sometimes I think, Bloom, you just are on this show with me so you can hear me hack people's names. Turan Jackson, defensive end, Coastal Carolina. Jacoby Stevens, safety, LSU. Patrick Johnson to round things out, an edge for Tulane. Let's talk about what the Eagles did. Of course, everyone's fixated on Devontae Smith.
Before we talk Smith, again, let's point out they have Miami's 1st next year. They have Indy's 2nd or 1st, depending on whether Carson Wentz holds up. Do you think the Eagles were rooting for the Colts to take a left tackle in this draft? So, they've got resources. And I think in this draft, we also saw them say, not this year. Not this year. We're not pushing to compete this year. And much like the Giants, their quarterback, Jalen Hurts, is in a 1-year audition. And we'll see. And much like the Giants, they have resources to go after a quarterback next year if it doesn't work out. They also came away with Washington's 5th in this draft. They go just like Miami, as they were part of the tango with Miami. They went down, then back up, giving up that 3rd. Devontae Smith is a player who's going to get you all kinds of layups on offense, right? I mean, this is a guy. You remember Wes Welker? there's a comparison so that people don't think we're just trying to say pigeonholed in types. It isn't necessarily about body type. It's about tactically how you can deploy a player. You just steal 5 and 10 and 12 and 7 and 8 yards with Devontae Smith. Now, will he translate more as a downfield guy going over the middle, frame concerns? Okay, whatever. Now, is Jalen Hurts the kind of point guard type quarterback to take advantage of that talent? And Devontae Smith can do things downfield too. I'm not trying to say that that's all he can do. That's obviously there's a lot more to his game. I'm just saying that's the biggest advantage, especially when you look at the Eagles wide receivers, right? Because now this, Jalen Reagor is a downfield guy. That's good. I mean, that's gonna. You have Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz is still there, by the way, in that hostage situation. They can also occupy the middle of the field, and that can get Smith in some good run after catch situations. And I get it. I mean, see, how long have we been talking now about the Eagles trying to fix their wide receiver position? And some of it's because, well, their attempts to fix it haven't quite fixed it. They get Dickerson. I would have been okay with Dickerson as the Steelers' first-round pick. Just keeping that. Now, Kendrick Green might make it look like they didn't need to do that. Dickerson's a player that if everything goes right, he doesn't play this year, right? So This is a pick, again, saying, hey, we're using our second-round pick on a guy that we know is going to be an interior offensive line stud. He's going to give us depth. Again, another team. You look at what happened to teams last year. You look at how their season got ruined or how their season ended. And part of it for the Eagles was just the offensive line falling apart. So if you need Dickerson this year, well, some things went wrong ahead of him, but obviously there's no drop-off. Maybe even there's an improvement. Milton Williams. Whoa. This dude is a monster. This dude is just a straight up physically a monster. And you like the idea of putting him next to Hargrave and Cox. Oh boy. Now you can rotate in 3, what did we like to call them, Cecil, in the old scouting circles? A bowling ball of butcher knives.
Yes.
These players that are really, really difficult to handle inside, and that and alone, that interior pressure kills. And Will Williams actually friends with Zach McPherson, who so this is, and by the way, so they traded the pick, the third round pick they got for Wentz. That's part of what they get for him. They traded up with the Smith trade up. They gave that up. Their fourth round pick they gave up to get Jannard Avery from the Browns. That didn't work out, but they still have the pick with McPherson in the fourth, and they like him. And look, cornerback is a position that the Eagles need wide receivers, and the Eagles need cornerbacks. Does this sound familiar? McPherson is a guy that they like, and McPherson and Williams are good friends. Gainwell, 5th round pick, but I think that Gainwell is not going to take over a backfield. Gainwell is not going to be a bell cow in any way, but Gainwell can absolutely assert himself. See, it's like you said, with that impatience, but he's got the footwork, he's got the burst, he can make some plays, he's really good catching the ball.
Spark plug.
Yeah, so I think they're going to carve out a role for him. Remember, this is kind of a new regime, not totally a new regime, new coaching staff. So what do they think of Miles Sanders? Well, I think they're going to try to find a role for Gainwell. Tui Pelotu, a really good run stuffer. And hey, if you're taking a really good run stuffer on the third day, I'm fine with that. They've got a tweener in Jackson, a box safety in Stevens. Johnson, can add maybe some developmental edge rush. They didn't do anything at linebacker either. This is obviously a position. There are just certain positions, so you can tell that teams say, we don't care. We're not going to throw resources at it. We're not going to try to fix it. We have a bunch of darts that we can throw on the roster. So that's the thing with the Eagles is there's still holes in the secondary. There's holes at linebacker. There's great strengths potentially now on the offensive line and defensive line, but it still all comes down to quarterback.
It does come back to quarterback as we go to the undrafted free agents for Philadelphia. There's Jamie Newman.
Yeah.
Jamie Newman should have been drafted. Jamie Newman was a player down at the Senior Bowl, fairly impressive. You see the tools that are there. Wake Forest quarterback was going to play at Georgia, and then COVID hit. So he didn't play, and then he showed up at the Senior Bowl. Showed off his athletic talent. Second best quarterback there. Mac Jones was there, fine. And then behind him, Felipe Franks? Not really. Right. It was Jamie Newman that was in the conversation as a developmental quarterback with upside. Certainly got the smarts. There's no question about his football acumen. You want perhaps a quicker processor, some better mechanics, but he's a modern quarterback.
Yeah.
So Jamie Newman's the one to highlight here, Bloom. So let's talk about these UDFAs for the Eagles.
Yeah, you really like this pick, UDFA pickup. Backup quarterbacks are expensive. I mean, relatively compared to other backups. And backup quarterbacks can also be an important link that it is the weak link in the chain. A name that I've seen thrown out for Newman's, and I'll just get your reaction, Jacoby Brissett. Does that sound,
I can see that. Yeah.
feasible?
Yeah. I can see that.
Jacoby Brissett is a player that can sometimes be the difference between you making the playoffs and missing the playoffs if your quarterback gets hurt. You get him for free, basically. And Newman may not have a high ceiling, but I think that's a really savvy pickup by them. And then you get Trevon Grimes. And the Eagles, Smith's not really, he can play outside, I guess, but that's not where he should live on the field. They have all of these players they've gone through, Arcega-Whiteside, ready to give up on him. Trevon Grimes is a big receiver who, like Arcega-Whiteside, can win at the catch point. And I think that this is absolutely a player who can. Now, when I say that, not that he can be what they hoped Arcega-Whiteside could be when they took him in the second, but what Arcega-Whiteside could be now. Like what we know about him. I think Grimes can be that guy too, or better. So I definitely took note of that when they brought him in.
You know what they say about Arcega-Whiteside now?
Yeah, what?
We're sorry, are bad.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Washington and their draft. Jammin. I just like to say Jammin. Davis, linebacker, Kentucky, coverage guy, smart guy. This was a pick if you missed out on a Micah Parsons. And I actually had Parsons falling to Washington in my first and only mock draft. Obviously, he didn't get there. But linebacker, Ron Rivera with a first-round linebacker who reminds me of Danny Trevathan, same school, right? So you're Wesley Woodyard, you're Danny Trevathan. That's who Jamin Davis is. Sam Cosmi, offensive tackle, Texas in the second round. Benjamin St. Just, one of my favorite corners from the Senior Bowl, because what's he, 6'4", right, Bloom? Here we go, talking about another tall corner again. Right. Cornerback from Minnesota. Dyami Brown, wide receiver, North Carolina. What was his average depth of catch? Like 20 yards?
Yeah.
Seriously. I think it was 18, actually. John Bates, another Senior Bowl tight end. And, we talked about this with Hunter Long. Like, he's a Y. He's a blocker, decent receiver. John Bates showed well that week down in Mobile, in my opinion. Round 5, Derek Forrest, safety, Cincinnati. Round 6, Cameron Cheesehead. What? Cheeseman?
There were some real interesting names in the 6th round. There was a run of all kinds of fascinating names.
Yeah, long snapper run. Will Bradley King, defensive end for Baylor in the 7th round. And in addition to Shaka Toney, edge from Penn State. Shaka, if Shaka went on day 2, would you have been surprised?
No.
I wouldn't have. Dax Milne, the favorite receiver for Zach Wilson down in Brigham Young, is the final pick of the 7th round. And Washington, well, it's a fair draft. Maybe not the most outstanding, dynamic, oh my God, but could be some solid players for this team for years to come.
Could be. I think one of the first things we have to take into account here, though, is that they could have, if the trade was there for the Bears to move up to the Giants pick, it was there for Washington. So again, we'll watch Justin Fields. This is a team that needed a quarterback. And I get it. Davis is going to help them right away. I mean, Davis is a player that the team screamed out for, really.
Yeah.
But if Justin Fields hits, it was there. It was there for them to get their guy. Maybe a little gun shy on Ohio State quarterbacks. Maybe that's why no one's even talking about it,
Yeah.
No one's even, we're going to talk about, well, Detroit passed on him, and Denver passed on him, and Carolina passed on him,
right,
and Philly passed on him. But nobody talks about Washington not making that move for him. So they get a good player. And like you said, this is one that really, especially is the first round buzz built for Davis. We could have seen this coming. I think during the live show, Cecil, I said, this is Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis. It's a little bit of both because you have that presence in the middle, and you also have that rangy athletic player who can do a lot of different things. and behind this incredible defensive line. That's the other thing. So we start to look at roster construction, right? And you can see how, like we talked about this with those cornerbacks in Miami. Okay, you've invested all this money in these cornerbacks. How can you leverage that by building your roster, by building your depth chart in a certain way? What are you stressing? What are you emphasizing when you're looking at players? And I think that one of the ways to get value out of that great defensive line is having that player who's not going to be touched, or at least that's not an important player that you have to neutralize. You're looking more at Chase Young. You're looking at Payne and Allen and the great players. They have Montez Sweat. It's worked out. So Davis is going to be really fun to watch behind that defensive line. Sam Cosmi, one of my favorite. I watch all the call videos, wipe the tears from my eyes. Emotional. When Ron Rivera calls Sam Cosmi, he goes, "Are you serious? Are you serious? Are you serious? Are you serious?" It's beautiful. And offensive tackle, deep class. Cosmi's one of those guys, and Cecil, what's your taste in offensive tackles? Because Cosmi's one of those guys who's a dancing bear. And he's not, a shrinking violet, but he's not a glass eater. But he can move. Right. So that's why he's there in the second round. But he can move, and he can be developed. And this is obviously a spot they need, still looking to replace Trent Williams. Speaking of Trent Williams, St. Justus is the player they got with the third round pick, the second pick they got for Trent Williams. Size and speed at corner, and it makes sense. Again, you're looking at, you want to get players that if you read a profile and you say he's aggressive, but sometimes loses a player down the field or something like that. When you have a defensive line that puts pressure on, well, you can mask that deficiency, right?
Yeah.
De'Ami Brown, and this is going to be fun, Cease. This is going to be fun on third down. And what have we been talking about? The Eagles have a problem at cornerback, right?
Yep.
The Cowboys have a problem at cornerback,
Yep.
right? The Giants secondary isn't necessarily a strength. And now you're going to put Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and De'Ami Brown out there on third down with Ryan Fitzpatrick, who will try any throw he wants. He'll let it fly.
Go.
So if De'Ami Brown is a guy who mainly affects plays down the field, well, that's perfect. And this is a team pushing to win the division, to repeat winning the division. Bates, this is another one. Cease. It just doesn't move the needle for me. Okay, he's a competent blocker and a competent receiver, so you can do both things with him. I want to talk about Sammy's Rays. Can we talk about him? Because I think he's available in rookie drafts. And they gave him, this is a guy, basketball player down here in New Orleans at Tulane. I think he was part of the international program, so that's why he wasn't a draft eligible player. Washington gave him $300,000-$400,000 guaranteed, which is more, I think, than any fifth rounder got in this draft. So Washington was saying, we look at you as a fourth, fifth round talent to develop. His testing was off the charts, almost prototypical in terms of what you would look for as a receiving tight end or just physically a player. So that excites me a lot more than John Bates, as far as what we're looking to for upside. Forrest is a special teamer, a long snapper. Bradley. So then they paid a fifth round pick next year to go up and get William Bradley King, who, an energetic rotational guy on the edge. And they get Dax Milne, who is another slot, limited upside, dependable, very dependable receiver. And like you said, Tony, the most interesting seventh round pick they get in the Penn State edges. And again, you see with Bradley King and Tony, maybe some guys who can provide some snaps here and there. I don't know if I would give up a fifth round pick for a couple of those players. But what you like here is, I think really this division now is set up. There's Dallas, and we know Dallas with Dak Prescott is going to be able to hang. There's the Giants, who think they're ready to hang. We'll see about Daniel Jones. The Eagles, who kind of going back to the second half of the last game of the year in the regular season, are saying we're probably not ready to compete yet. and then Washington and Ryan Fitzpatrick. And even though maybe this wasn't the most exciting division to break down draft-wise in terms of how the draft classes went, Ryan Fitzpatrick's in this division. He's going to start. We can be very thankful for that. That's a gift from the football gods, and I can't wait to see some 45-42 games between him and Dak Prescott.
I know he's buried on the depth chart, but I can't wait to see Jarrett Patterson out there for Washington. Great. He should have been drafted. What I wrote on our footballguys.com news site is Patterson's a big play waiting to happen with a nose for the end zone, 53 touchdowns in 3 seasons. Great feet, doesn't stop when contacted by a defender. Hard charging, not used much as a receiver, 0 receptions in
Right.
2020. And yeah, keep an eye on him in super deep dynasty formats. Jarrett Patterson,
Yeah.
Washington running back.
Yeah, he'll have to overcome Lamar Miller and Peyton Barber. Peyton Barber's there to ruin fantasy dreams. But Patterson's it's a mighty might. You don't want to root for him. You really want to root for him. And it's another one of those players, we watch certain players, and Matt Waldman is excellent at picking these guys out. Jarrett Patterson's going to get as much he could get out of himself, period. I'm thinking of Andrew Hawkins when I think of this. Players that he's going to hit his ceiling in the NFL. Now, his ceiling might only be a second or third running back who contributes on change of plays, but I fully look for him to get picked up somewhere else if Washington doesn't keep him because of their depth chart. I'm rooting for him. I think he's going to be a fan favorite, and I think that he's going to be the kind of player that if he can get his foot in the door and get some touches, the coaches are going to say, we need to give him more touches.
Coaches are going to say, what are we doing? Why don't we do that some more? Why don't we do it more when we talk about the 2021 NFL Draft? Of course we will tomorrow morning. So everyone stay tuned for that. And if you love footballguys.com and you love the Audible, you want to support the show, then help us grow the channel. Do all those YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And all of our regulars in the chat room, make sure to leave us a comment as well. That really helps grow the channel, kind of puts us in other people's recommended videos and allows us to get a larger audience participation as I drool all over myself. So that's a wrap for today. And everyone check out footballguys.com. I brought up our newsletter. We're back on a daily basis. Our free daily newsletter, hot and fresh to your inbox every morning. All the fantasy football news that you want to know right there. You have a life. We don't. So let us cover the news. We'll give you all the hot opinions you need to know right there. It's a Football Guys free daily newsletter available for free at footballguys.com. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey. The show is at the Audible, and we thank you for watching, everyone, and thank you for listening. Stay tuned, and it was forever. I want you to stay frosty.